I read this cool article this morning, just this morning, that in the first 7 seconds that you meet somebody, they make thousands of judgments about whether or not they trust you, if you're a good guy, if you're competent in what you do. So as I'm walking around and kind of watching guys interact with each other, it's kind of like a course in human psychology, because you can see the way that people kind of present themselves. And you know, when you talk about somebody that has charisma, you know, like a Bill Clinton, or I actually know somebody that's actually personally met Bill Clinton, and it's not the type, he's not even a Democrat, and he's like, dude, I'm telling you, the guy's got like Jedi powers. Like, he is so engaging, and he looks at you, and he really honestly listens to you, and it's unbelievable what this guy can do. The power to be able to do that is so powerful. Obviously, it got him elected to the White House, the most powerful man in the free world. But from our perspective, what does that tell us about how we can affect what the patients do and which way they lean when we walk into the operatory for the first time, right? So it's really, really powerful. So 7 seconds, you get enough information about somebody to tell you whether or not you trust them, whether or not you're going to buy something from them, because people buy based on emotion, not logic. So, you know, the traditional method, when, you know, you have all of your certificates on the wall, that's great. I can do this, 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 and this, that's great. But people have decided in 7 seconds whether or not they're going to accept treatment from you. So, what can we do in 7 seconds that's going to make sure that we lean more towards them accepting treatment and trusting us? And in our private lives, how can we use that 7 seconds to make sure that people are more attracted to us, and so that we appear more charismatic? For people like Jason Lowry and Aaron Nicholas and Buddy who want to get up on stage, it's huge. You know, some people have the natural gift and they can't quantify it, but there are certain really tangible things that we can do to make sure that we increase our own personal charisma and that we come off well in that 7 seconds, okay? So, like I said, I just read this article this morning, so let's talk about, I call them the Power 7. I just made that up. The Power 7. What are 7 things we can do in 7 seconds to make sure that people have a positive experience with us? They know, like, and trust us within 7 seconds. Anybody have any ideas? Smile is one of my sexy 7. Okay, so if you're looking in the mirror, this is a funny anecdote, because for years I thought that when I did this certain thing with my face, that it was like a half smile, like a friendly half smile. And when I got married to my wife and started having kids, they're like, Dad, why are you in a bad mood? And my wife would be like, why are you scowling? I'm like, no, this is my half smiling face. This is me happy. And so the funny thing is, like, I literally didn't know my physical anatomy, the muscles in my face, enough to know what expression I was giving. So when I became a speaker and I started, opening up all these dental practices, and I realized that people's first impression was really, really important, I did this nerdy thing, and I sat in front of the mirror. I would turn my head, and I'd say, okay, this is my half smile. And I'd turn back and go, oh my gosh, you look pissed, you know? So I had to relearn what that felt like to do my half smile. So now my half smile is, I include my eyebrows, and then I know exactly what my cheeks feel like when it's a half smile, you know? And that is me not looking angry and annoyed. So the first tip is, when you're smiling, you got to know your facial expressions enough to know what it feels like in your eyebrow area. You want to open your eyes wider than you're used to opening them. And you have to smile bigger than you think is comfortable, because in most cases, that smile is smaller than you think that you're portraying to the world, okay? So smile's a really big one. So learn your facial expressions. That's a really, really big one. Okay, give me another one. Anyone? Eye contact. That's another big one. One of the things that you should always try to do when you meet somebody. Okay, and I'm gonna put like 3 of these down because this is kind of a thing that it's one of those chain things. Eye contact first, but not so much that you're creepy. You want to gaze but not stare. So when you meet somebody new, you want to be about 2 feet away, eye contact, leaning slightly forward. It's a posture thing, leaning slightly forward. I know Jason Lowry has brown eyes now. You should always try to remember the person's name and repeat it within the first 5 seconds and remember their eye color. Because if you walk into a conversation knowing I'm going to do 2 things, I'm going to remember their eye color and I'm going to remember their name, then you've built huge rapport in a half a second. So now that you know everybody in the room, you should know without looking at them what their eye color is, now that you know their name. Okay? So that's a little trick that you can kind of keep to make sure that you're gazing but not staring, because it gets creepy really quick if you gaze a little bit too long. Eddie has brown eyes, so I can turn away now. And it's a slight lean in. The body language, okay, 4 times more. Body language is 4 times more impactful than what you say. Okay, so all this 7-second stuff, it's all nonverbal communication. This is all lizard brain stuff that came up through our evolution as human beings. So, gazing at the eyes, try to remember what somebody's eye color is, and literally look and then turn away. We're leaning in slightly. Extend your hand. Handshake's another big one. Firm, but not too firm. They say that the handshake, if you have a good impression with the handshake, it takes 3 hours of verbal communication to build the amount of rapport that it takes to build with a good handshake. That's how powerful a good handshake is. Firm, not too firm, and you're gazing into their eyes, you're leaning slightly forward. Okay, so let me write this down before I get out of. So, eye contact, handshake. What else did I say?
Learn a name, use it in 5 seconds.
Name. And one little technique that I've learned to remember people's names, and I'm no expert on this because I forget people's names all the time, but you gaze into their eyes, say, nice to meet you, and repeat their name, and at the end of the conversation, challenge yourself to say their name again, extend your hand again, gaze into their eyes again, and say, nice to meet you, Jim. Okay? So if you can get all the way through the conversation, even if you're not registering everything that they say, you're repeating their name a couple times in your head, and you're remembering their eye color, and then you depart. Okay? All right, another big one. Posture. So how we hold ourselves is really, really a huge, impactful nonverbal cue. So if you walk in like this into the operatory and you're like, hello, how you doing? How you doing? Yeah, good to see you. That is sending the sign that we are incompetent. It really is. Believe it or not, it could be the furthest from the truth. I know a lot of really, really competent surgeons, professionals that present themselves horribly. They're shabby, they're not well cared for, and their posture is just sloppy. Keep in mind, you want to have your chin up and your shoulders back. When you walk into the room, it's all of these things. Half smile, understand your anatomy in your face, know what that feels like. Those are the people that you say, God, there's just this energy I can't quantify when the guy walks into the room. Do you guys know people like that? Like that Bill Clinton scenario. It's everything together. But this is all happening in split seconds, and you don't even know that it's happening. You get this gut feeling, and those are the people that have the most successful dental practices because, again, people buy based on emotion, not logic. It doesn't matter how many plaques you have on the wall. It doesn't matter how qualified you are. Very rarely will they ask how many implants you do, but if you go in there with the correct posture, the correct body language, they will say, yes, please, yesterday, do that implant. Okay? So posture is another big important thing. Let me check my notes. Personal space is 2 feet. How many people know a close talker? One of my very best friends is a close talker, and I find myself doing this all the time. It's like, yeah, huh, really? I'm not hearing a word that he's saying, and then he gets closer, and then a couple beers, and like the guy's like kissing me. But personal space, it's 2 feet. And there's that thing again, when you're trying to emphasize something, and you lean into somebody and then lean back out, it's a dance that we do together. And there's this 2 feet personal space rule that if you encroach upon that in the dating world, in the professional world, while you're networking in a business situation, while you're with a patient, they might not even be able to quantify it. But if you intrude in their 2-foot bubble around them, they will not get a good feeling about you. Okay? Well, sometimes. Well, under certain circumstances in the dating world, that's acceptable. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, being present. That's another big one that I came up with. Present. So all of this together, and that's that whole thing that my friend said about when he met Bill Clinton. It was a 5-minute discussion. He said the guy was there the whole time. He was so present. Like he knew my name. He looked me right in the eye. He listened to what I was saying. He actively participated in the conversation. So, I mean, being present, probably like all the problems we have in our personal lives, in our business, in our interactions with other human beings, with our kids, everything probably boils down to whether or not how present you are in the moment. And all this previous stuff comes down to the ability to be present. What color was their eye color? Be here, right now. Don't be thinking about the 3 other people that's standing over their shoulder that you have to get to because they're more important. Be present right at that moment, okay? Because people can sense what your attitude is and whether or not you're present or not. And all this other stuff doesn't mean anything if you're coming off as inauthentic and looking over their shoulder. So be present. So it comes down to eye contact, body language, posture, how we're looking at them, personal space, and all that stuff. So that's being present, okay?